everyone, it's Hailey, and today I wanted to talk about some of the new books that are coming out this spring that I am the most excited for. So this isn't going to be like a comprehensive list of every single book that is going to be coming out in spring. It's more so the ones that I personally know that like I probably already have pre-ordered and I'm really looking forward to receiving that, or just ones that I know that I'm probably going to go and pick up like right away. There are so many great books coming out, and specifically spring seems to be a super big season for new releases, and I just have so many that I cannot wait for. So today I'm going to be talking about books that are coming out in April, May, and June of this year, and then I will do a video about summer new releases a little bit closer to then, but that will be like July, August, September, and then you get the point. You get the rest of the seasons of the year. But without further ado, let's just get into it. So the first book that I'm really excited for is Hotel Magnifique by Emily J. Taylor. So I'm actually currently listening to this audiobook because it's available, like because of work, I get access to some Penguin audiobooks and it is super helpful, but I'm currently listening to this one because it became available and I was just so excited for this one. So this is actually formally coming out on April 5th, so it will be out by the time you see this video. A couple of these will be, but it is kind of like Caraval. It really, listening to it reminds me of Caraval because it's dealing with sisters, and you have these two sisters who are kind of down on their luck a little bit. They are on their own, and the youngest sister ends up getting a job at this hotel, and it's this famous hotel because it's the only place where magic is safe, and it disappears, like it's in a new place every single day. So it's very interesting. You can kind of see where I'm getting like Caraval, a little bit of Night Circus vibes there, but the one sister gets a job there, the other doesn't, but she ends up saying like she has to go with her. So the two of them go and they discover that this whole magical hotel is a lot more different than they were expecting. It is definitely more of a dangerous situation. So I'm not very far into this one at all. I'm probably like an hour or so into the audiobook. I've just been listening to it here and there, but this cover is honestly the first thing that drew me in. It is so stunning. There's something about like black and then neon colors. I just am obsessed with that combination. So I can't wait to get further into this one, and I'm hoping that the rest of it will be as good as it is in my mind. Next up is An Arrow to the Moon by Emily X.R. Pan. So this is officially coming out on April 12th. My pre-order actually has already arrived, but when I heard this book was happening, I knew that it was one that I needed in my hands because Emily X.R. Pan is the author of The Astonishing Color of After, which came out, I think, in like 2019. It's been quite a while now, and I fell in love with that story. I loved her writing. It was a very deep and personal story, really emotional. It's dealing with mental health, and it's dealing with mental health in a very honest and unflinching way that I've never read before. So I was blown away by that story. I recommend it time and time again, and if you haven't read it yet, please do. But this is very different than that. So this one is actually a Romeo and Juliet retelling. So I believe it's fantastical, and it's drawing on the author's Chinese heritage. I think it seems very cool, and like I'm just so excited to have a new book by this author. Next is With and Without You by Emily Wibberley and Austin Sigmund Broca. So this one is coming out on April 19th, and it's actually a romance author duo that I'm sure you have heard of before. They write great YA romances, and they themselves are actually a couple, which just drives the whole thing home. They do have an adult romance. I haven't gotten the chance to read it yet, but that one came out earlier this year actually, so it's a pretty big like writing year for them, but that one was called The Roughest Draft. This one is their latest YA romance, and I've kind of had mixed feelings on their romances, to be honest. The first one that they wrote was my favorite. I Always Never Yours, I think is what that one was called. And then from there, they've kind of gone downhill a little bit, although the one that they have, I can't think of what it's called, but I know it's white. Time of Our Lives, that one that deals with college, I did enjoy that one. But there's a couple others, like their latest one, I ended up DNFing. However, I love their writing, which is why their books still make it onto my most anticipated releases list. So this one is actually based on a long distance relationship, which is something I've never read before, and I think that seems really intriguing. And this one is also drawn drawn from the author's own experiences as they were in a long distance relationship. Now, their previous book was also like the closest to their love story, so I'm hoping that this one will fare a little bit better for me. I am more optimistic because the other book was Enemies to Lovers, which isn't my favorite, and it was not a great Enemies to Lovers in my personal opinion. So I am looking forward to this one because I think it's an interesting topic that, I mean, a lot of people around the age of reading YA are dealing with like people going to different universities and stuff. So we shall see, but I'm hoping I will like it. Next is By the Book by Jasmine Guillory, which I realized I've been saying Gilroy, but that's entirely incorrect because the R is not before the O, so I really apologize for that. But this book is coming out May 3rd, and May 3rd is one of the biggest book release days of the year. It always ends up like that. A lot of big authors, I find, release their like spring release on May 3rd, and it's the same thing with the first Tuesday of September. There's also a bunch of new releases that always come out on that day, but the May one is like the spring version of that. That's just kind of a fun fact and observation. But anyways, this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling by a beloved romance author. She has so many books out now. This latest one though is described as a romantic triumph of love and acceptance and learning that sometimes to truly know a person you have to read between the lines. The cover totally drew me in for this one. It is gorgeous and I love the idea of this. Like, I'm really excited. Next up is Book Lovers by Emily Henry, which is also coming out on May 3rd, and I cannot wait for this one. So Emily Henry is an author who started out in YA, and I've read one of her YA books and I really enjoyed it. And then she ended up moving to adult romances, and she has found mass success there for good reason because her adult romances are incredible. I've read all of them, and I mean, there's only two, and this will be the third, but I've read the two so far, and they both have made it onto my favorites list of the year. So she's quickly like making her way to being one of my favorite authors, and Book Lovers I think is probably also going to be up there. So in this case, the other books both dealt with travel in like some capacity, or not even travel, but they were set somewhere new for the main character. But this one I don't think is set somewhere new for the main character, but they all deal with like their bookish romances in some way. Her second book dealt with a travel writer, her first book dealt with just a romance writer, and then this one is dealing with a literary agent, which is very interesting. So we're kind of seeing a different side of things, but she's this cutthroat literary agent and she keeps on crossing paths with this brooding editor, and obviously we kind of have the setup for a little enemies to lovers romance there. So I'm excited for this one. I just love her writing, and I feel like I'm gonna enjoy this one. Next up is I Kiss Shara Wheeler by Casey McQuiston. This is the latest book by the author of Red, White, and Royal Blue. We also have another book that came out last year, One Last Stop, that I haven't read yet, but I really need to, but I'm so behind on so many books. But this is their first YA book, which I'm really excited for. And it is about academic rivals, and before, like a week before they're going to graduate, the main character's rival, Shara Wheeler, ends up kissing her and then completely disappearing. So there's kind of like, obviously a lot of questions there and a lot of confusion. I'm definitely getting Paper Towns vibes from this. I've said it before and I will say it again, and maybe until I read it, and I definitely don't get those vibes, but it seems like kind of that same similar concept, so we'll see where it goes. And I can't remember if I said it, but that one's also coming out on May 3rd. Next, coming out on May 10th is Set on You by Amy Lee. So I meant to pre-order this book, but I forgot to pre-order it, and then like there was another coupon that came out from Indigo, so I was like, perfect, I'll pre-order it. And then I ended up forgetting again, and by the time I remembered, the coupon had expired, so I'm really sad about that, but I will get this book eventually. So this is about a fitness influencer, and then like it's a firefighter, I believe, but she's a plus size fitness influencer, and she goes to the gym, she has her favorite squat rack and everything, but then she kind of has this like hate to love thing going on with this really cute firefighter because he keeps on going to the gym at the same time as her and stealing her favorite squat rack, which definitely is a vibe because I was like, I definitely have a squat rack that's in the corner that I love using, and whenever someone there, I get really sad. I'm like, dang it, like now I have to be exposed, even though everyone can see me just as much when I'm at the one in the corner, but still it feels more like my space. But I'm really looking forward to this book. It definitely seems to be hitting a lot of like my personal interests, so I think it's going to be a great one. We're back to May 3rd because apparently I didn't order this list at all, I'm sorry, but next is Something Wilder by Christina Lauren. This list has a lot of romances, I'm realizing, but that's what I have the attention span for right now, so that's where I'm going with things. But this is the latest by Christina Lauren. You guys know by now I love this romance author duo. They are absolutely incredible and I'm never let down by their books, so I'm really excited that they have something new. This one is about the daughter of a treasure hunter, and she's kind of been left with nothing, and she's trying to go and get back the ranch that her estranged father sold. So it was like a beloved ranch for her, but she's going on this trip with like a man she once loved to try and buy back that ranch that her father sold. So I'm getting second chance romance vibes, which I love, so we'll see. Next is Fake It Till You Bake It by Jamie Wesley. This sounds adorable. Like, oh my goodness. I don't know what it is about baking in books, but if there's like baking or food, I actually have quite a few more on this list that deal with baking and food and restaurants and stuff. There's like 3 out of the 5 that are left that have that same concept. But this one's coming out June 21st, and it's following a football player, and he actually loves to bake, and he has this bakery, and he ends up fake dating a reality star in order to save his bakery. So they have to pretend to be a couple, I guess for publicity reasons, because she's a reality star, so then the bakery can be saved. I love the whole concept of that. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Take a Hint, Danny Brown, which I loved too, so I'm definitely hopeful. Next, we are really bouncing around here. We're back to April 5th, so coming out on April 5th, which will already have been out by the time you are seeing this, is The Wedding Crasher by Mia Sosa. Now, I have The Worst Best Man by Mia Sosa on my TBR right now, but I'm into all of the wedding reads since this is the year of weddings for me. I just want all of the wedding books, honestly. So The Wedding Crasher is a rom-com about 2 strangers who get trapped in a lie and have to fake date their way out of it. Fake dating is one of my favorite tropes, so like that always seems like a recipe for success to me. Speaking of more cooking books, next we have another one that's coming out on May 3rd, and that is Chef's Kiss by TJ Alexander. This is following a high-strung pastry chef whose goals are interrupted by an unexpected career transition, as well as the introduction of her wildly attractive non-binary kitchen manager. So we've definitely got the romance there. We have a little bit of like kitchen stuff, we have career transitions and everything. This one seems like it's going to be a lot of fun, but also kind of an introspective read. And I swear the last cooking book that is on here is Cafe con Leche. I'm not sure if lychee is actually how you say that, and I'm really sorry, but by Emery Lee. And this one is coming out on May 10th, and it's an enemies to lovers story, and it's following 2 characters who they kind of are rivals. The one is hoping to escape because he doesn't like working for his parents' Asian American cafe, but the other one sees his parents' Peruvian bakery as an escape for him. So they're kind of on opposite ends, but they end up having to work together to come to a mutual goal. And the final book that I want to talk about that I'm really looking forward to being released for this spring is Inheritance by Elizabeth Acevedo. I didn't actually realize that she had a new book coming out, but I'm definitely thrilled about that. So this one is actually a visual poem, and it is illustrated by Andrea Pippins, and it's dealing a lot with Elizabeth Acevedo's own identity and all of those sorts of things. I know that like all the books that I've read by her so far, I've been blown away, so I don't think that this one will be any exception. Okay, so those are all of the new releases for spring that I am the most excited for. I'm sure there's some that I missed, but I think that I hit like the top ones that I'm really looking forward to. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what your most anticipated book release for spring 2022 is, because I would love to know. And I will see you guys in another new video soon. Bye!